This is Manny Hishmeh with the LARP.com crew, and today we are interviewing Youlanda Daffron. How are you today, Youlanda?
Doing pretty good for a Sunday.
So thank you for taking the time to speak with me today, Youlanda. LARP.com is conducting this interview in order to get the true story of LARPers.
Okay.
So Youlanda, did you have any initial thoughts about what LARPed meant before attending your first event?
Not really. My first introduction to LARP was a Vampire the Masquerade game on a college campus up north, which didn't really impress me very much. I've been told by experienced players that it was obviously not a very experienced ran game based on the experience I had. So when it came to coming to my first Boffer LARP game, I was very hesitant. I had friends that were playing Nero for a year or so, and they were always pestering me to come join. I'm like, no. I didn't want to go all the way to Orlando for a weekend and be stuck there if I didn't like it. So they finally had a one-day event where it was just a few hours, and they convinced me to go to that, and I just kind of kept with it since then.
So you mentioned Nero. So for those of us who don't really know what Nero is, can you explain a little bit about it?
Nero is a New England role-playing organization, I believe is what it stands for. It's a fantasy-based Boffer LARP that has chapters in different states. It originated up in New England states by the name. I believe in Massachusetts is where it started off.
Okay. So yeah, there are definitely a lot of cool events and LARPs in that area too, as well as the Central Florida area too. So is there anything that you wish you would have known or that you wish you'd been better prepared for before your first event?
That's hard to say. I guess I would say probably knowing more about the difference between the experience role-playing in person from like almost a theater improv sort of way compared to the casual Dungeons and Dragons that's sitting around the table, half of the time goofing off, half of the time maybe role-playing.
Yeah, I definitely could attest to that and agree. I think it's way more fun to get out there and actually RP and, get up into garb and definitely experience LARP to its full effect. So what kind of LARP do you like to attend most often, Youlanda?
I do like Boffer LARPs. As far as the general sense of the type of LARP, because I like the activity, particularly the sword fighting. It's how my friends kind of hooked me on it with it anyway. They're like, just a few hours, you come out and see how many times you kill us. I'm like, okay, fine. But genre-wise, I'm really willing to try anything. As long as it sounds like it's interesting. It took me a long time to get involved with Dystopia Rising as well, which is like a post-apocalyptic zombie setting, because from all the stories I heard about it from everybody, it was just zombies 24/7 nonstop, and that's all there was to it. And I'm not really the biggest fan of zombies because I think it's done way too much in TV and movies and everything. But it ended up being a lot more than that once I got involved with it. So I was pleasantly surprised.
So for those of you who don't know, I've played in a LARP called Origin with Youlanda. That's how I got my start out in Boffer LARPing and high fantasy as well. And Youlanda, you actually played a character named Sharara. Can you talk about Sharara a little bit for us?
Oh, what do you want to know? It was Origins was a game that I got involved in to help support friends of mine. I'm just in general into really supporting LARPs in general, because I do think, despite all the things you might see, on Facebook and social media and stuff about them, that they're really a positive thing for people. But Sharara was kind of meant to be a casual character. I was just there to, help them corral the new players, the people who've never experienced LARP before, and help out a little bit in the background of the plot, or whatever else they might need a little help with. And then she ended up becoming pretty integral to the goings on as she became a squire to a knight, and ultimately nemesis to Terry's character, Raphael, which made for a lot of interesting roleplay.
Yes, it sure did. So Youlanda, can you tell me what type of roles do you like to play the most in LARP?
I tend to look for what everybody isn't playing. I don't like to just play what everybody else is doing. So if there's a particular race or a particular role that only one or two people are playing, I'll go for something like that and go with that to kind of just add to the variety of it and go a little bit against the grain. Usually I end up in a lot of support roles that way, casters, healers, crafters, that sort of thing. But my characters almost never end up what I think they're going to be.
So, which was the most recent LARP that you've attended?
Most recently I've attended is a LARP here in Central Florida that has now a year old, called Riftfall. It is I don't want to say that it's not exactly post-apocalyptic, because gameplay does not take place on Earth. It is based off of a lot of Lovecraft lore, so it's an extension of what is known as the Dreamlands in the Cthulhu mythos. But you do find the undead things, and there's a range of technology. So you have insectoid aliens with plasma guns and lasers and spaceships and everything, but you have also primitive people who still run around and use swords and shields and bows and arrows and everything. And there's magic involved, because that's also still part of the mythos there a little bit. I'm actively playing a full combat character and there. And behind the scenes, I help write the plot for them and help new players.
So I do have to agree. Riftfall is definitely a fun LARP. I did enjoy playing it myself. It's kind of different than any other LARP that I've actually played. It does have a lot of fun mechanics to it as well. So Youlanda,
yeah, the owners are trying to take their experiences from previous LARPs and trying to improve on the things that they feel, from the player's point of view, would make the game more enjoyable for everybody, and kind of take out the things that they don't think helps with the game. And the way the game is set up is it encourages players to work together in teams as opposed to, everyone trying to be the lone wolf. You're not going to do very well if you just kind of run off and face all the tentacle monsters that just want to eat you.
Yeah, that's not going to work alone, for sure. So, how would you say that LARP has positively affected your daily life?
It's something I definitely look forward to. I have a pretty active imagination, and I like to craft things, and I like to write, and so it's a creative outlet for me on many different levels. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with this great idea, and I write it down. I'm like, hey, this would be a great plot, or I help people with making characters, or I might make armor for costuming, or just come up with new characters that I might want to play when the current one I'm playing isn't viable anymore.
So, how do you think, from your first event that you attended till now, how has your view of LARP changed over time?
I think that I see it more as more than just a game. I mean, before when I started, it was a game. It was something to go out and do with friends. Not too different than, sitting down for 4, 5, 6 hours, play Dungeons & Dragons, just that it's all weekend long. I think it's a good social tool. I've seen people who have come into LARPing who are socially awkward or have low self-esteem, maybe some level of autism where they don't always fit in well because they don't catch all the social cues, and so they'll do things without really realizing that it's something that's wrong. And I've seen LARP give them a place where they can make those mistakes as a character and learn from that, and as a person, it helps them improve. Their confidence gets better, and they become more mindful of themselves when they're interacting with people outside the game.
I really like the fact that you said that LARP can be used as a social tool, because exactly what you just said, it does help people branch out and break out of that shell, and LARP is kind of like an escape from reality. You're free to play whoever you want to play, and just run with it, and it's just a really good experience.
Yeah, I also, for myself, find it a unique way to educate people on my own condition, being almost completely blind. A lot of people don't really realize it, funny enough, because they'll see me out there fighting, or just walking around the park or the camp or wherever we're at, and until I might ask directly for help, or someone will tell them. They don't, and they're all surprised. It's not really something you would think that somebody who doesn't have eyesight would be out there doing. And I think people who are other adults who, maybe they have jobs in human resources, or, some other position where they have influence, where, companies hire people, they'll have that experience to know that people with visual impairments are a lot more capable than what society has, determined is the case.
So, are there any up-and-coming events that you're looking forward to?
Oh, well, the next Riftfall game, for sure. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it out to the Dragon Thrones event that's taking place next week, but I'm not completely separated from it. I once in a while get tagged by one of the owners of Dragon Thrones for ideas if they're a little stuck on how to explain something, or if they need a little extra writing done to get things done on time.
So, Youlanda, the last question I have for you, and this is the question of the hour, because everyone in the LARP community is so creative, and I know that you are one of the most creative LARPers that I've ever had the pleasure of interacting with. If you could choose the next greatest up-and-coming LARP idea, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's hard for me, because it's not uncommon for me to have 2, 3, 4 ideas running around in my head. I've been craving a lot of Shadowrun lately. And for those who might not be familiar with Shadowrun, it's a tabletop game that is cyberpunk with some fantasy elements in it. So if you think Blade Runner, if magic was brought back to the world by Native American shamans and elves and dwarves and things became a thing again. And I've actually been thinking about what a LARP in that kind of setting would look like, and how that would run, and the game mechanics and little mini games and different things that you could have to make that work, be it on a campus or a mall or some other modern-esque looking place that you could find.
So, Youlanda, I really do appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. It was really nice to be able to get, your story on LARP, and it was nice to be able to talk to you. So this is going to conclude the interview. I do want to let you guys know, if you haven't already done so, check us out on LARP.com. And Youlanda, thank you again. And
you're welcome. It was nice talking to you.
You too. I hope to get to LARP with you soon again shortly.